Hi everyone and welcome back. I'm excited to be sharing some helpful information regarding autism spectrum disorder. So in this video we will define what that means, what the disorder means. We will discuss some characteristics that are common with children or individuals with this disorder. I will also be sharing next steps to take if you are concerned that your child may be autistic. So let's dive in. Hi guys, so the first thing is let's discuss what ASD means, or Autism Spectrum Disorder. I will have to kind of read the definition here. It is a neurological disorder that impacts social and language skills especially, and it also includes abnormal behavior with the environment. So that's like, what does that mean, right? Some of the characteristics that you may see with children, I'm going to emphasize on children with ASD. Some of the things that you may notice are poor eye contact. So that doesn't mean that the child doesn't give you eye contact ever. It just means he or she doesn't consistently give you eye contact. For instance, this may look like, "Hey buddy, how are you?" And then the guy or the little guy or the little girl is just like, "Huh?" And you're talking to him or her and she's just looking around. "Oh, come give me a hug, baby, come." And then, like they come over to you, or just kind of avoid that one-on-one connection visually. The other thing that I have also seen with children is a lot of inappropriate socialization skills. For instance, by a year and a half, kids usually do a lot of parallel play. So if there's kids playing in the sandbox, the other kiddo will come sit next to them and, "Oh, you're playing with cars? Oh, let me play with cars too." That is considered parallel play. Yeah, I'm playing with you with minimal interaction. Maybe you want a toy from them and, you're shy, you make an eye contact with them. So some kids with autism don't have that ability. Like, they are just in their own world. They are happy playing by themselves. They're not interested in others. In fact, it could be that when there's a group of kids, that child then removes him or herself from that situation, staying away from the other children, wanting to have his own space. The other part is unusual or abnormal behavior. And this, I would say, I've worked a lot over the years with kids with autism, some before they've been diagnosed. But one of the things that is always like a true, or to me it speaks, okay, no, this kiddo may have autism, is when we have abnormal behavior. So for instance, we do a lot of hand flapping, right? A lot of hand flapping. I've had a kiddo that used to do this, right, to visually stimulate himself. So he would do this a lot. And then he'd be done, and then he'd go play with cars or whatever. And then every 2 seconds, like maybe not 2 seconds, but every so often he would go like this. I've also had kids head banging, right? When they would get frustrated, they would bang their head on the floor or bang their head anywhere. And when we have this type of behavior, that's usually the first red flag that parents notice. The next one is language delays. So this one is iffy because I've had some kids that are very, very verbal. They just don't communicate their needs. For instance, I worked with a 2-year-old. Oh my God, this kid loved space. He knew all the planets. He said really big words like asteroids and galaxies and stuff like that, but he was not able to communicate, "I'm hungry," or say, "More, please." So that could even be considered some type of speech delay. It's not necessarily, oh, they're nonverbal. No, they may have speech. They do have a lot of words, but they don't know how to express their feelings. Also, when you ask them, like, "What is your name?" they won't say, "My name is blah, blah, blah." Sometimes they'll say, "What is your name?" So they'll just kind of repeat what you're saying, and that's it. Never on his own will he come out and ask questions. When you do notice some stuff like that, it's kind of good to realize that, okay, this isn't common behavior. This isn't how language typically develops. Just as a side note, I want you to just, if you're a parent or a guardian watching this video and you are concerned of your child possibly having autism, first step is I just want you to relax, right? And just realize that your child is your child no matter what label we give him or her, okay? We don't want to label anybody. If anything, where I'd like to advocate for evaluation and for diagnosis is because as a parent, it gives us more tools to deal with them, to work with them, to teach them in a special way. It's not a disability in my opinion. It's just, okay, now I need to kind of reinvent myself as a parent or as an educator and teach you a different way of learning. Let me get to know you. So just that's a side note, okay? okay? Because I do feel like that is the one thing I always talk about with parents. They struggle with, oh, what's going to happen to my child? Oh, now he's autistic. And now we stop seeing our child for, John or for being Eric. Now we just think of, this is a child with autism. We just look at autism. So no, let's remember who our children are for the essence of who they are, okay? So let's move on to another point. A lack of expression and affect. So that may be some kids, and this is not all as well, right? Some kids with autism may not be happy when you come home from work, right? They might just look at you and like, oh, whatever. Instead of like, mama, dada, and running up to you and kissing you and hugging you. However, I have seen kiddos with ASD that they do express these affections, right? They do come get close to you so you could hug him, or that they do come give you hugs and kisses, but their emotional, the type of emotions that they portray are very, very limited. It's usually just upset and happy. They don't really have like excitement faces or fear. So there's just a limitation or a lack of emotional expressions. Sorry about that. Another thing, it's sensory disorders. And this is a really big one, I would say, because if a child does have a sensory disorder, it doesn't mean automatically, oh, he has autism or she has autism. There are children that have just sensory processing disorders. Tactile defensiveness. So sometimes kids don't like certain textures. Kids don't want tags on their clothing, or buttons really bother them, right? So that is a sensory defensive that they have, right? And another one's vestibular. The vestibular system is they could be overactive or underactive. So they may be seeking a lot of activities or not want a lot of activities. The next point here is unusual or limited play. And that is another big one. By unusual play, we see kids that like to line up objects, for instance. Instead of playing with cars, beep, 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 they just want to line them up, and they are hyper-focused on that. If I come in and I take a car away, oh, thank you. They kind of get upset and have a little meltdown. No, they want it back. So that would be some type of abnormal play. And then in terms of limited play, it could also be where instead of just playing with the cars, they're hyper-focused on the spinning of the wheels rather than spinning of the cars. I had a kiddo whose mom said, I think something is wrong. She goes, my son likes strollers, but he flips them over and just sits there and spins. And she said she was one day she went to the flea market, and her son ran over to the person in front and wanted to flip the stroller over to just play with the wheels. And that's when mom was like, oh my God, I need help. Something is wrong, Another way that they portray limited play is by not doing a lot of imitation play. Like, for instance, when we're looking for children, oh, does he imitate play? We want to make sure that he's doing 2 to 3 steps combined. Like, for instance, I'll go get a cup, make coffee, here mama, give coffee to mama, or give coffee or something to drink to a stuffed animal. Sometimes what we just see with kiddos with ASD is just 1 step pretend play, or they just really want bubbles. That's all they want to do all day. Just blow bubbles, blow bubbles, blow bubbles, or just coloring. So that is an example of limited play. And the next one would be possible cognitive delays. And this one's a tricky one. I would say that kids that are perhaps demonstrating cognitive delays, those are the ones that get diagnosed a lot earlier. So for instance, it is very difficult to teach them colors. It is very difficult to teach them numbers. Another thing could be that they also lose skills that they've already had, right? So before, I've had a kiddo that he used to speak quite well. He would say, mama, more, mama, more. And then all of a sudden he stopped saying mama and he stopped saying more. Like, we couldn't get words out of him, right? So that regression in language, regression in things that they've learned. There was a little kiddo that had learned to put the letters with the ABC board. Well, all of a sudden, there was a regression in that skill as well. He was no longer able to do that. So that would lead to us thinking, oh, maybe my child does have some cognitive delays, right? And that's one of the easiest ones to kind of spot. And the other one's poor tolerance to changing in routine. So when there is something that changes in the routine, it's very difficult for them. They do not adapt very well. And it could be as simple as like, hey, we usually take a walk to the park. Today's raining. We're not going to go to the park today. No, park, outside. we would see that type of behavior. And it's not something that we can distract. Hey, let's go do something else instead. They become very overwhelmed, right? They don't have the strength to overcome that change in routine. And then low tolerance to frustration means that they're trying to, like, let's say, position the A into the A slot and it's not fitting correctly. They might throw it and just depict a lot of frustration. They're just angry that it didn't happen, rather than let me try it again. Maybe I'll try it in some other slot. No, we will see that lashing out or being really upset when something doesn't go their way. And that is so the last one I have here, it's emotional lability, and that means an intense and rapid change in emotions, right? And overreacting to something that is probably not that important. For instance, I had a kid once was coloring with a crayon, and he was super excited that he was coloring, and then snap, the crayon broke, and that was it. My kiddo there was just like, started throwing things around, became very frustrated. Mom and dad tried to help him. Hey, buddy, we have more. How about this one? He was just kind of flipping out, right? So when we see that their reactions are a lot more intense than the situation calls, that's what we would consider emotional lability, right? And that means heightened irritability and a change in tempers, constant or drastic change in tempers occurring. I would love to hear if you have concerns. Please comment down below. Tell me, hey, my son or my daughter does this. What do you think about that? I would love to kind of, comment and see what you guys are dealing with, or what kind of questions you may have regarding any of these characteristics. I can clear them up in the comments, okay?